So I've been editing videos for years, and although I've created more than 130 courses, I haven't until recently started doing my own edits for everything. And I've used everything from Final Cut to Premiere to After Effects. And before DeScript, I used something called ScreenFlow. I really loved all of them at the time, but more and more, I've been working with DeScript. And I think it's because one of the things that's really important to me is workflow. I want my workflow to be as fast as possible. I don't consider myself necessarily an editor. I think of myself mostly as a teacher, developer. I like to do the things that I'm doing. Editing is the venue by which I sort of produce the content that you guys get to see. So either editing or whether I'm using Descript or something like Ecamm to like do the live streams. I don't really like to think about those tools, and I just want to get to producing the content as quickly as possible. So for me, I found that Descript is right now the best thing out there for just workflow. And that's what I like about it, that when you work with it, you find out that it does things that you're not expecting a program to do. And they just make you faster. In addition to having a lot of AI features, which are pretty amazing, and they work really well for the type of work that I'm doing. So in this episode, I'm going to sort of show you my entire workflow. I'm going to cover specifically the AI features of Descript and some of the other things that I use to create some of this content. So, if you want to take a look at some samples of the stuff that I've done, there's actually a couple of places where you can take a look at things. So, the main one would be the new website for this show, which I'm doing right now, at least right now, every other week. It'll depend on how well it goes. I think every other week is actually the best format because it isn't, I don't know, every week seems like a lot. And also, I'm not doing any guests so far this year. So I like this format. So if you want to take a look at the episodes, you can go to this youtube.com/at it's playtime and take a look at last week's episode. And of course, we're doing this week's episode, and I'm already have an idea for the next episode. So take a look at that. And I also started publishing like short videos. So primarily, what I do is sort of like full stack development and AI topics that relate to that. But I feel that there's a lot of stuff that I want to say regarding how I use things like ChatGPT and other generative AI tools. So I've been doing like really, really short videos that show you different, I don't know, tips and techniques for how I use specifically for right now ChatGPT, but I'm expanding to other things as well. And I think I will as time goes by. So these are like, the biggest ones, like 10 minutes. So definitely check those out there. The other way that you can check out my work is, of course, go to LinkedIn Learning, which is my full-time normal job, and you can take a look at any of these courses that have my photo in them. So if they have my photo, it means that it's something that I edited, and I did that with Descript. So any of these courses that have my mug right on the top, you can take a look at that. So you could go to go.rabo.org/learn, I think it is, and I'll have all of the links to all the stuff, in the show notes, which will be probably in the YouTube video. So actually, I did a process for how I program Chat GPT to do those for me after I did last episode. So let's talk about just the workflow that I go through for creating a lot of content. So we'll start off by I have some quick slides that I prepared. So I'll show you the production apps that I use. I start all of my scripts for anything that I do in a tool called Obsidian. So Obsidian is basically a markdown editor, but it has like all these amazing features. So it has like Kanban boards. It has, I wasn't meaning to show this to you, but it has like all these like features where it's kind of like an editor, a writing tool, but it has amazing features. So things like Kanban boards and other things that I love. So I do all my writing really there. And then after I finish with Obsidian, I take that script and then put it in a tool called Prompt Smart. So Prompt Smart allows me to just have an app on my machine that runs my prompter. And right now I'm looking at the prompter. You know, I have my notes in there basically uh, for the show. Actually, I'm not looking at the prompter. I'm actually looking at Obsidian right now. The prompter, the Prompt Smart, what it does that's pretty cool is it lets you auto advance your script as you are saying it. So it can be connected to your microphone and it will automatically, you know, use AI to basically advance and scroll your text as you're speaking it, which is nice because I don't have anybody. Normally, you would have somebody running your prompter, but I don't have anybody, so I use that. It works pretty well. There is an iPad and an iOS app for it, but the nice thing about the desktop is that I could just quickly copy and paste from my Obsidian or any other application into it, and I really love it. So that's what I use for after I do my scripts. I put stuff into Prompt Smart, and after that, the next step would be to then go into DeScript and record. I'll show you the process that I use for that. And after that, I may use one more program called Snagit, and that allows me to do quick screenshots or also quick videos. So if I have to, for example, say show a website, you know, I want to have like some sort of video of me of showing either showing maybe a scroll of a website. I can use that to not only record but do very quick edits. A lot of times, like when you do a quick video, it basically you want to clip out some of the things that you're doing. Like maybe you didn't scroll to the button properly, so you want to just edit that out. And Snagit's really good. It's very quick, and the thing that makes it a better workflow tool is that after you take a screenshot, and I'll show it to you in a second, you can just you'll see a screenshot of all the things that you took, and then you could just drag and drop it directly from that application into the DeScript timeline, which means that you're just not wasting any time like exporting and doing things, having to, export in a format, then import into an application. You could just literally drag and drop it from that tool, which is super great. So let me show you kind of some of the websites and some of the tools. So let's see. So here's a website for DeScript. It's just descript.com. Uh, I think that it was originally designed as a podcast tool, and it does a fantastic job. But then they really made it into a solid editing tool. It's not perfect. I will tell you that if you really love like something else, like if you really are in love with Premiere or Final Cut, it's going to be a bit of an adjustment. It doesn't do everything, and I'll show you some of the sort of shortcomings that I think are inherent in the application. I think I did. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I'm not sponsored by anyone, so and it's probably for good reason. Like so this is just me talking about what I use and what I think it's good, and I'll also give you the things that I don't like about the tools. So here's DeScript. It's pretty cool. You can use it for all kinds of things. It actually works really well for podcasting. Some of the AI features will let you just take a piece of audio and just tell it to look for all the ums and ahs and the word repetition. It'll find them all, and then you can hit one button and it gets rid of all of them. And I'll show you that a little bit later. All right, so Obsidian is what I use for writing everything, organizing my brain. It's just a fantastic tool. Actually, in my other channel, I did a video on how to use it, but you can find plenty of videos on Obsidian. It has all kinds of amazing stuff in there. So that's what I use for writing. And here's Snagit, and I'll actually show you my Snagit right here. So this has basically a screenshot of everything I've ever done or everything I've ever captured. And you can see that whenever I have to do a quick video here, it has basically just a video player. Here I am doing a scroll. But whenever I do a recording of a video, I like to sort of maybe go through and notice that, okay, so I start scrolling right here, and I want to just position this in my timeline with the start of the scroll. So I could just very quickly select this and then cut this out. And then if I save it, so say that I wanted to cut this out, I cut this out. And then once I hit finish here, or if I save it, it's going to either replace the current item or save a copy. And again, the nice thing is that it just records to a MP4 file, I think it is, or an MOV. And then I can pull up DeScript and just drag and drop this into the timeline. And it just makes it super fast to add some B-roll type stuff. So yeah, it's really I mean, it does a lot of other stuff, but that's what I use it for in terms of workflow for creating the courses. So Snagit, really cool. And then this is the website for PromptSmart. It's just promptsmart.com. It does a great job. Again, you can use just your phone or your iPad, but I basically connect it to my machine, and I have a Mac, like an M1 Mac Mini. Maybe I should do a show on my ridiculous setup. And basically, it's just another monitor. So my machine has two real monitors and then two virtual monitors, and I can put my prompter in window in one of the virtual monitors, and then just run everything from there. So okay, so cool. PromptSmart, fantastic application. So let's go back into the slides, and we'll keep going. So what I use in terms of apps and extensions, I use this tool called Switchy, that if you watch my videos, you know that I use a lot. Basically, it's just a URL shortener. The nice thing about Switchy is that you can, add a custom URL. So I use rabo.org for my blog, and so I created a shortcut called go.rabo.org, and my short links can actually have that prefix. And you want to find like a domain that's really short. And then I can also customize the title of my links. And it's just sort of a cool tool. And I use that when I'm doing a course if the link to where I'm sending you is too long. So for example, if I was sending you to an extension, those have really gargantuan links. So that's a place where I would use something like a link shortener in order to take care of that. So let's see. I want to make sure that I keep an eye out on any questions that people have. So let's make sure that I'm showing the comments just in case. I see some people already, and even people that I noticed, that I know actually in the chat. So yeah, add your chats and questions, and I'll try to get to them as I see them. So let's keep on going on. So okay, so Switchy, wow, I use that thing for everything. But again, the reason I use it in my production is that sometimes you get these links that are huge, and I like to shorten them out. So that's what I use. But you could use like Bitly or something free. It doesn't really matter. I just like that I can use a custom URL, and then I can edit the names, because sometimes it's easier to just have the extra names. So I use another extension called SVG Export. That just lets me, if I find a website and I want to grab, like, say I'm talking about OpenAI, and I need the OpenAI logo to just put it either on a thumbnail or while I'm talking about something, then it's kind of hard to grab SVGs specifically. So you can usually right click on an image and save the image, but SVGs are a little bit trickier because they're code. So this tool basically lets me find all of the SVGs on the current page, and you can download them, open them up in like Illustrator, make them whatever size, or Photoshop and make them whatever size. So that's a pretty cool tool that I use all the time. Then there's another tool that I use sometimes, not as much as SVG Export, but it's called the Image Downloader. So these are both Chrome extensions, and I'll show them to you in just a minute. And they just make it like Image Downloader can actually batch download a bunch of images, and it basically does anything other than SVGs. So, and like, don't worry, I will have all of these in the show notes, and I did do a video on how I do that, like how I actually have another tool that grabs all the links, all the URLs from tabs. So make sure you check that out on that channel. All right, what else? Let's see. I also use Keyboard Maestro. So Keyboard Maestro is really awesome. So I often have to type in either a lot of code, or say, for example, if I'm doing a class on ChatGPT, I end up having to type a lot of prompts. And I use Keyboard Maestro for one thing, and that is basically it lets me paste text, but make it look like I typed it. And I'll show it to you. So I think that's the last item, right? That's the, okay, yeah. So let me switch over to my desktop, and I have just this website right here. So what it lets me do is basically to say that this was like a long prompt that I have to type in. So I used to type them in manually and then just edit the you know, edit the typing, but I make mistakes all the time. While I'm recording, it's like I get like 5% more nervous, right? So I thought, well, maybe I could just paste them in, but it's a little bit better if it does it slowly. So if I hit this command key, it just pastes it, and adds a little bit of randomness. And when it's clean like that, then it just becomes a much shorter edit. So I know that I typed it incorrectly. Like a lot of times, what I'll do is if it's a prompt, I'll copy the prompt, I'll paste it into ChatGPT, and I will edit it actually, even while I'm recording. Like if I don't get the right answer, and then I'll just cut it, and then again use this command key to do this. So I do have it up somewhere. So let me show you just the macro that I have. So here's Keyboard Maestro, and this is my macro, and it simulates a keystroke with a certain amount of delay, right? And then I think it, like, when it reaches a word, it also can fake it. Like they're very slight because the timing is so tight for this particular macro, but it does make a difference in how it looks when you type it, and it works super great for courses like this. And you'll see that I'll show you how, after I record myself doing the prompt, I can actually go into something like DeScript and say adjust the timing, like if I wanted to stick more or less. Recently, I have been saying the prompt, so and I don't. I basically I perform. I try to talk like while it's automatically typing, but I don't worry about it if it goes shorter. It usually does go shorter than me reading the whole thing. I can adjust the timing later on really nicely. So that is, let's see, that is the Keyboard Maestro. So let me show you some of the other extensions, right? Right, so here is SVG export, and this is the website svgexport.io. And you just click on that page, and basically it finds all the SVGs on the page, and it lets you take any of these and save them as either JPEGs or PNGs. And you click here and you hit download, and you can actually also, this is nice because a lot of these SVGs are super tiny, like they're just icons basically on the page. So before you export, you can actually change the size right here. You can note, evidently there's like a direct link to Figma. I don't know what this is, but I really just download it and then I import them either into like Illustrator. A lot of times I use it like if I'm doing a show and it's a show about DeScript, I would probably put the DeScript logo, although I didn't do it for this one. So that's that one. Then there is Image Downloader. Again, see, this is one of those gargantuan URLs that you could just look for Image Downloader Chrome extension on a search. And if you wait for the show notes, you'll be able to see it. So basically, this lets you batch download a bunch of images or download anything other than SVGs. And then here is the link to Keyboard Maestro that I use. So those are all the tools that I use to get things done. In terms of, let's see, slides, go back to my slides. All right, so basically all these are the tools. Then let's talk about sort of why I picked DeScript and what it does. So I'm gonna go ahead. Well, I'm not gonna run it yet. So basically, I like the way that DeScript lets you edit with what's a document instead of editing with a timeline. A lot of times it's just quicker to have a text document, and you'll see some reasons in just a minute. And then I can do really quick edits with just a document, but it also has a timeline, and you can do, sometimes timelines are better. A lot of times documents are better, especially at the beginning of workflow. So the Keyboard Maestro, by the way, somebody asked, Richie Pereira asked, what does Keyboard Maestro? It basically does macros, and it does the typing for me. So whenever you see me type something on screen, I no longer type it. Well, I do type it, but then I copy it, and then I hit a command key, and then it pastes it as if I would have typed it, and it just makes a cleaner edit. If I have to, I have had to, like, because I have do typos all the time. I have had to. It's really complicated to do those edits to make them look nice. So I just use Keyboard Maestro to do that. So you're gonna really love the timeline edits and DeScript, the other thing that it does is everything is non-destructive. You can undo unlimited undos, and you never have to save because everything is also in the cloud. That's pretty awesome. Again, for workflow's sake, I can be anywhere and do a quick edit. So I get a call from somebody, hey, you screwed up this. You need to fix something. I could be anywhere in the world, and there is a web editor. And also your files, although they're duplicated locally, they're actually stored in the cloud. So when you record, those files will eventually be automatically uploaded to the cloud. There's all kinds of collaboration features and things that you could do there. All right, and then there's all these awesome AI assistants that you get also with DeScript. And I think that they don't really say this, but the way that the features work, they really do great in terms of handling a fast workflow. So let me show you what I mean by these different features. So let me go into DeScript now. All right, so here's DeScript, right? And let me just show you, this is my last video that I did for YouTube. Now, one thing that I like and I don't like at the same time, I have like mixed feelings about this. Whenever you click on a file, it just opens it. I like it, but when I don't want it to open the file, it's annoying. So, all right, one dig. I don't know how they would fix it because it is kind of convenient. Again, I think that's that philosophy of workflow first. They want to make you edit quicker. So this is a finished project. And I just want to show you that we have basically an editor, and it doesn't look like an editor, it just looks like a transcript. But in reality, this is an editor. And you'll notice that when I click on any part of that text, it's just going to jump in the timeline to that sequence. And I can very quickly just select a word or a series of words and edit by just deleting a word. I delete that word, and now that became an edit. That's what I mean by you can either edit with the timeline or you can edit with the words right here. Now, the other thing that's pretty awesome is that you can actually edit so every word gets to have a tab right here, and you can adjust the timing just by clicking and dragging these words in. So if a lot of times there's a lot of pauses in your edits. So if you want to make those a little bit tighter, then you can do that. And then you can also, of course, scoot it over this way. And what it will do is, one of the things we have to record when we do a normal course is do like a room tone, basically a piece of audio that with me not doing anything, but still being in the room so it sounds like the room. This will automatically pick that up for you. So if you scoot something over because you need more time, it will just input some empty space in there. Now, the only problem here is that this is video, so there's going to be, it's just going to basically freeze frame the image. It's not a problem if you're editing like something with a demo, but in this case, what I would normally do is I would just expand. I usually have some extra room when I say things, and I would just expand the timeline because then it has me like actually talking or me moving a little bit better. So that's what I mean. It has a timeline and an editor. Everything is non-destructive. Everything goes to the cloud. And it has a lot of assistance features for AI, which I'll go over in a minute. But I think you can see that there's a lot of really interesting workflow features that, again, I don't think that that's something they advertise, but there's just stuff that happens that you're like, oh, that's good. I like that. So you'll really hopefully enjoy it. Yes, that it does support things other than English, although I haven't used it for anything else. I know that there is like languages all over the place. All right, so let's talk about how things are organized. This is one of the things that kind of throws you off when you first start using DeScript. All right, so let me switch back over to the slides really quick. And basically, things are organized in projects, right? And there's also these things called workspaces. The projects are basically everything you have ever done in a single folder. So as you're working with a lot of stuff, it gets a little bit old to have to, scroll through the list of things that you have done. And I'll show that to you in a minute. So there's this concept of workspace. You can have a shared or private workspace. It's actually designed to be, worked on by teams. So the workspaces let you organize things a little better. Honestly, I would just get rid of the main project window because it took me forever to realize that I can't create folders on the projects, although maybe, I don't know, maybe they'll add that at some point. Then after the projects come compositions. Compositions are the work that you're doing, right? So every video would be a composition, but also you can have every course be a composition. So a course would have multiple videos. They can be organized into a single composition, and you'll see that again in a minute. Or they can be, just a single composition of everything that's happening. Yeah, this all gets recorded. You can just go to the YouTube channel or bookmark. If you're coming from LinkedIn, just bookmark this on LinkedIn, and you should be able to go back to it. So in addition to compositions, you have different sequences. The sequences are like basically a multi-channel workflow. So if you can record multiple elements all at once. So when I'm doing a demo, I'm recording my face and I'm recording the screen. I might record, it only does two things, and that's one of the things I don't like about it. I wish it had more input. So I would like I use my phone often. So I would like there to be an extra, sort of sequence or layer to let me record the phone as well, because sometimes I have to do phone demos. But it's not like the worst thing. But sequences. So sequences are basically a multi-layered view of your videos, and then there's obviously videos. Those are media, they call it. So you organize all your media and into sequences. You put that in compositions. You put those in a workspace, or if you're desperate, you can see everything in one huge projects area. And listen, there could be somebody here from DeScript that knows this better than me. This is my personal sort of, I don't know, experience with this. There's probably some things that I don't know about, because, I've been using it maybe for like a year or so, but it's, they also have a pretty dynamic like release schedule. So they release stuff all the time. So let me show you what I mean by the project organization. So I'll switch back into DeScript, and you can see here that we are in the projects view. Now you can have multiple drives. So basically this is my drive for my personal projects. And then I have a drive for, stuff that I do for LinkedIn specifically. So we won't go there. And here's all the things that I have ever done. As you can tell, I've been busy, right? So I don't like to see this view. So I like to put things in this workspace where I can have nice folders. Again, this should be the default view, but I'm not done. So maybe there's a reason. So I do have an archive folder. So if I create some videos and I don't want to see them anymore, then I might put this in this archive. Might put them in the archive. So I'm going to go back into my Playtime folder. This has all the videos, the short videos that I've created for YouTube. And then this is the one that I was showing you before. So in this, this would be a composition, right? You can have one composition. And if you just record a video, then you'll be able, one of the things it'll say when you click right here is make this able to do multiple compositions. So I could have, if I was doing a course, I could have all the videos from my course in one place, and it just makes them easier to find. The other thing that you could do is it's capable of creating multiple layouts. So you can grab, say that you did a live stream and you want to do like a quick short for YouTube. You can grab a piece of the video, and it's really slick the way that this works. You basically can select some text like this, copy it, and then paste it into a new composition. So yeah, let me just show you that really quick. So I can grab all this piece of video, basically this edited piece of video. Notice the timeline's editing, multiple sequences, right? And then I can go, I'll make a new composition out of this. And how do you bring all that video in here? You literally just paste. And now I pasted everything. All the edits, all the scenes, all the overlays are all pasted in there. And then you can maybe run a template on this. So this is pretty slick. You can like go, okay, well, I haven't shown you templates yet, but I'm going to use this template for vertical items. And then it's going to apply that template. I'll hit match orientation. And basically I have a YouTube short, and I can continue to edit the YouTube short. Obviously, not everything is going to work, and it will add things, for example, like it's adding the automatic captions. So it has AI that detects the captions, and it uses your transcript, and you can control how that looks. So that's pretty cool, especially good for if you're reusing some content. So that's compositions. Generally, I'll either use them for in a course. I'll use them for the different videos in the course, or again for shorts if I want to. So let's go back into this right here. So the other thing that you have available to you when you're doing it, when you're doing an edit, is the ability to have sequences. So when you record right here, right? And when you record, you can record just audio. That's good if I have to like replace some audio. So I have to say something else or add a piece of audio, then I can just record a quick audio and I can just add it to the timeline. I can record just the camera, or I can record the screen, which will be the screen and the camera. And what that does is it creates a file, and all your sort of compositions or sequences, they call them, are in this media section. And you could see that in here I have a sequence test that I did, and then the actual sequence that I'm looking at right now, right? And this sequence has been transcribed, right? But this is basically just a layered version of actually. Oops. No, stop. You're just doing stuff. Maybe it's just a little bit busy. So I can edit the sequence actually also from the timeline. And you can see that I have a layer for my screen cap, a layer for, and a layer for my video. Now, normally these two things are merged together, but I have to separate them because my audio comes from a nicer mic and I have to sync them up a little bit. Now that's a thing they could improve, the syncing, the automatic syncing of my audio to my video, because I have to use a clapper, and I'll show that to you in a minute. So, but this means also that I can add another layer of video. So if you say you use something like Ecamm and you're doing some interviews and you've recorded a bunch of things, or if you've recorded, say, something that has multiple cameras and your phone as a video input, and then you had an interview with some people and you have like 6 different layers of video, you can just import that all into a sequence and they will automatically all be aligned. And then you can switch between these different sequences in your timeline. And it does it in a pretty slick way. And then in addition to that, notice that it just randomly has all these MP4 files. These are files from Snagit that I just dragged into the timeline, and I don't really worry about organizing them. So yeah, cool. So you have sequences, and then you have the actual media, which are the recordings that you did. So here you can see that I have audio and video. Remember, I have 2 sequences, one that was just like a test, and then I have the actual sequence, which is 10 minutes long, unedited video. I think it edited down to like 3 minutes, right? And then I have a bunch of like B-roll basically that I added in here. And you can also drag and drop like images, like if I wanted to add a logo now that I did that different sequence. So all of these different compositions share media. Just remember that, because if you are putting your entire course in a in a composition or in a set of compositions, then they're all going to share media, which can be good and bad. Sometimes you want to share assets. So yeah, let's see. Oh, somebody keeps saying it. Yeah, there is going to be a replay. I just joined the event. What's the software name? It's called DeScript. All right, so let's keep on going. So that is kind of the structure or the project organization of everything. So let's go back to the slide. So let's talk about how I record things. I actually showed you how I record things. I hit the record button. I can record either the screen and or the camera. I wish it had more inputs. I also use a Clapboard. I think you can see me here. So my Clapboard looks like this, and you do this, and then I can sync the audio, and then I bring it into bring it into that sequence into the media panel, which has multi-channel sequences, the recordings, and I use that to synchronize my layers. As I mentioned, because I'm using a separate audio mic, I have to manually scoot that over after I look at the clipboard. Now, it also has another AI feature that is fantastic, and it's called Studio Sound. So it's a button that you can see right here. So actually, let me switch over to my demo. And you can see that there's a little button right here called Studio Sound. That means that basically where I record, I have a fridge in the background. I have a fan that I live in Florida, so it gets kind of warm here. So I have the fan running. Otherwise, I would die in here. So it filters all that out and it gives you really good normalized audio that works super well. I used to have a filter. It was an AI filter that worked really well. This is kind of the same thing. Yeah, it's a really good, pretty clean audio. Now you can turn that on and off on sort of a timeline scene basis. But if you go to, so if I double click on any piece of content in the timeline, it actually takes you to the sequence. Or you can, when you go to this audio sort of layer, you could just make sure you turn this on, and then everything that you have imported for that piece of audio will be normalized through Studio Sound. So that's pretty awesome. Again, that is I think a workflow feature that they do that I think works really well. So okay, cool. Let's see. Next up would be the editor. And I showed you how this works a little bit. Basically, we have sorry, I moved back too much. I have the transcription editor. You can select text in the transcript and then just hit delete. You can actually the transcript doesn't get everything perfect, so sometimes you can correct the transcript. It doesn't understand the words chat GPT. It puts like chat GPT, chatting PT. It doesn't do a good job with that. I don't know if it's me, if I should pronounce chat GPT a little better, or it just doesn't know what to make of it. So, but the transcription editor is really great. But there's also a timeline editor. It's pretty good. I'm not, I want to say I'm not a timeline person, but that's not right. I think that it takes a little bit getting used to. Uh, let's just say that. So there's also a concept of scenes in the application. You can create scenes, and the scenes help you. They appear on the left-hand side, and I'll show them to you in a minute. And they just help you divide your content into little segments. Whenever you do overlays, the overlays will automatically adjust to those segments, which means that you want to create scenes kind of where you logically think that there's going to be some sort of edit, right? And I'll show you that, how I do that and stuff. And then there's a properties panel on the right-hand side. That's where I showed you the Studio Sound is, but there's a lot of other stuff in there. And then there is a toolbar, which I think is probably the thing that is very confusing to find at first. So again, let me go over to DeScript and I'll show you these different pieces right here. So obviously this is the transcript. This is the editor down here. This on the left is the scenes section. And you can see that I have some B-roll here. So whenever I'm adding or changing the timeline a bit, like I'm adding, say, an animation or I'm doing some sort of overlay, I tend to create different scenes for that. And what that does is help me animate things or help me put overlays a little bit better. There's actually scene markers at the top. So this is scene 37 right here. And we can adjust where those scene markers go. It's kind of another way of organizing things, but they're especially useful when you're putting things on top. So we'll get to that in a minute. All right. Then there is the properties panel. There's all kinds of great stuff in here. So you have special effects. I showed you one of the special effects is that automatic transcription effect. So automatic transcription overlay effect, which will basically show text automatically highlighted as you say it. And it does that for you automatically. That's one of the things in here. There's also, here's where I can go to my camera view, my different layers in my camera. So I can go to the screen cap or the camera. It also has this really cool feature, again, AI, called active speaker. If you did an interview with somebody and you have, a multi-layer view and you want to let the computer create different scenes every time somebody's talking, it can do that for you automatically by setting this thing to active speaker. It'll just AI, it'll locate the different speakers and add scenes for you automatically. You don't want to do that until kind of later when you first start your projects, right? But that's a pretty cool feature, and all kinds of other stuff in here. Let's see. So the menu right here is, like I said, oftentimes I don't know where to find something, and it's usually either these menus right here, the menus on the left. Notice that under this D right here is actually a full application menu, because this is a web app. It does have menus, but this is kind of where all the menus are, and actually how I access them normally. Also, there's context sensitivity, so whenever you click on things, of course, it shows you like all these different tools right here. So that's pretty awesome. So let's go over sort of the passes that I go through when I do some editing. So this is my workflow. Let's go back into the slides really quick, and I'll just talk about them really quick. So the first thing I do is I use the AI to get rid of filler words. So this would be like the ums, the ahs, if I repeat myself, and this repetition only controls short words. So if I say something twice, say, it'll catch that really quick. So the AI can take care of that, and I'll show it to you in just a minute. The next thing that I go through is I tell it to shorten gaps. A lot of times when I'm editing these videos, there's a lot of waiting, especially for prompts. When I'm doing like a course on ChatGPT, there's just a lot of waiting. And even if there isn't waiting, sometimes as I am maybe doing just a mouse move to show that I'm going to click on a button, there's just a little bit of waiting there as well. So you can have the AI automatically find all the places where there's no talking, highlight them, and then you can very quickly go through them, and you can either delete them all, or you can just go through them and delete them one by one. So that's pretty powerful. The other AI that I love is this new one called remove retakes. So that one is, because I'm writing or reading from scripts, I don't do a lot of ums and ahs. That's something that would happen more is if you're doing like a live podcast like this, you'll probably been noticing me doing a lot of those, right? So this will actually, the thing that happens in a course or a tutorial is I'll try to say something and then it won't come out right. I'll mispronounce some part of it. So I'll say it again. And for whatever reason, sometimes I end up saying it 3 or 4 times. Sometimes I didn't like the performance. So the AI will automatically look for all the places where I repeated myself. It'll pick the last, I think it's usually the last one, and then it'll delete all the other ones and give you an edit that has all that done. That used to take me a long time. So between the filler words, the shorten gaps, and the remove retakes, all which are AI features, it just gets me to meaningful editing a lot faster. So let me actually show you that in DeScript. So let me switch back to DeScript, right? And so to show you this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another composition. This will just be a new composition, right? And what I want to do is just kind of pretend like I just recorded something, and I'm going to import the sequence. And you can also do this anytime you want to bring in an existing sequence, then you can just drag this in here. The other thing that the sequences are good for is a lot of times I won't record everything at once. I'll come back and I'll either record a new section, or I'll record a piece and then I'll come back and I'll record another piece. So that would be another reason why you would do multiple sequences, right? So once you finish recording, you should have something like this. No scenes. And actually, this is your video side by side, and everything is kind of a mess. So this is the whole 10 minutes, right? I just brought it in, and I definitely should edit the beginning. This is me just, usually I do I have my Clapboard at some point over here, although there you see the Clapboard. And then I want to begin right here. So here's again, the sequence that I go through. Is the AI pass is basically first thing is I'm going to go into this actions right here. So actions is kind of a place where you can get a lot of features. And I'm going to go through and select remove filler words. Now, again, for a course like this, I'm using a prompter. I don't have a lot of filler words, but it did found this here. And then you see that I said that prevent twice in there. So it found that. And then at the end, I said so. I tend to say so a lot. So I wish it actually would pick that up. You can actually search for words as well. And then you can either hit remove or remove all. None of these will matter too much. So I can just remove all. Also, even if you remove something, don't worry, it's still there. So you can still get to this. And notice that it gives you this regenerate edit, or you can open this up again. Sometimes it'll cut a little bit too much. You just go to the timeline and adjust things in the timeline. So that's the first thing that I do, filler words, especially good for podcasts or live events, because you tend to do that more in that sense. So the next thing would be shorten word gaps. So you could see what I'm talking about. There's a big word gap here. I don't know what I was doing to see. Then I don't know. I was probably thinking, daydreaming. I don't know. So now I want to get rid of those. So next up, I will come again to this Control K, and we'll close this out and go back to actions and say shorten word gaps. Now I'm pretty aggressive about shortening my word gaps. I have to, normally I think you set it to, you can set it to like a second, 3 seconds, find like the big gaps if that's what you want. I tend to look for 0.15 seconds. It's just what works for me. So I like my editing to be super tight. So I can, again, do shorten all, or I can come in here and just review where these gaps are by clicking on this. And it should be taking me to the gaps. I'm not sure why it's not really going anywhere. But well, normally here's a 30-second gap. So wow, normally it takes you to the gap and then you can remove it. I'm just going to hit shorten all just for purposes of this demo. And it's going to try to remove all of them. It didn't like removing some of them, so it kind of keeps some of them, and you can go review those if you want to as well. So that's super useful, because now look at my timeline. It's a lot tighter, right? It got rid of all those dead spaces, and look at all the edits that it did. It just saves me a ton of time where I would normally have to do that myself. I could just use that tool, and it does that. So the last AI edit that I do is what I told you. Now, this was in a weird place because it's brand new. It was just added like a week and a half or so ago. And well, I hope I'm not boring anyone, so I don't get any more comments. It's like we may have lost some people too. But so here, what I do is I go to actions and I say ask AI, right? And then there's one here called remove retakes. So remove retakes is what I told you. There's all kinds of cool stuff in here, so you can have it try to create like a summary, a blog post, show notes, a YouTube description. But this remove retakes is the one that I use. So basically, it has ChatGPT like built in, and it types in this prompt. And I'm just going to hit return. The AI will think about it, think about it, think about it. And after a while, it'll find all the places where I repeated a bunch of sentences, and it will show me an edit. So here's the edit of my project, and then I can just apply this edit if I want to into, so I can say apply this edits to scripts, or also copy the edits to a new composition if you're really feeling nervous. Again, I'm going to just apply edit to the script because it doesn't matter. And everything is non-destructive, so you can always get the stuff back. So I don't even worry about it. It does do this strike through, so you can actually see where it did the edits. And now I have basically a really good piece of an edit that would have taken me, 2 to 3 times longer to do if I didn't have these AI assistant tools. Oh, well, thank you, David. I appreciate it. That was very nice of you. So David said, I'm explaining things really well. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Excellent. So, okay, excellent. So you see that the workflow is what makes this program great. I know that there's other editors possibly that are better. If you're used to something else, go with what you love. But I really like this because it is so workflow centric, I think. And you can see those 3 features just basically removed a lot of the work that I would normally have to do. So, okay, that's usually the first pass that I do is those 3 things. And I didn't even have this remove, repeated sentences until like last week. So let me go back to the slide. So here I go. Now, then after I do that, then I do what I call a screen cap pass. So this is where I need to, so I know this particular course, this is a prompt. No, I think, doing some prompts in ChatGPT. And now I need to go through and find where I was doing something in the video. And what I probably want to do is either switch to the place where I'm typing things in, because I could either be talking about something while I'm typing something in, or I try to say the thing that I was doing, And now I want to find the piece of video that's going to illustrate what I said. So you can see right now that my videos are side by side. So I'll show you something pretty cool. So if I take this video and I click on it, I can say position and I'll say fill canvas. And now this fills the canvas. Now, if you look at my layers, so if I click on this, you'll notice that it's a multicam view, and I can right now look at my camera. So now if I want to say, if I have a section where I want to switch over to my screen cap, I can click right here and switch over to screen cap. And notice that although my screen cap was also super small, it actually noticed that I made the main photo bigger. And so it actually makes the screen cap bigger, and it actually put my other video here. Now I can adjust those layers and move like this to the back. If I want to have like a picture in picture, you can go to layer order, send to back, and now I can then, move this over here and crop this and make it into a circle and all that good stuff if you want that sort of layout. But I like that by default, it notices things like, oh, you made this photo bigger, so you want the main view to be bigger. It has like that kind of those kind of workflow features in them. So basically, what I want to do now is find a place where I was doing something in this course. So let's see. At some point after me talking for a long time, I switch over to a different view here. So I know that I want something from this section. Now, normally this will be in my camera view right here. Now, this is where scenes come in, right? So here, I definitely want to start a new scene because I either want to switch to the video of me doing the thing, or I want to put a layer on top of my face so that it'll show that piece right now. So I'm going to hit the slash key. That's how you create a new scene. Notice over here on the left, it created a new scene. And now from here, I can either go over to the screen cap, and any piece of video before here will have my face on top. Now everything after here will switch over to that other camera view. So that's how you switch camera views. So if I would have matched this perfectly, like my actions would have matched perfectly with what I was saying, that would work. For this kind of edit, that's not going to work because I was talking about it and I want to use the doing part with the talking part together, right? So I'm going to do something slightly different, and this is actually the way that I do it. So I'm going to undo this, switch over to a different scene here. Switch over to a different camera, and what I'm going to do is just double click on anywhere on the timeline, and I can now, okay, this is really important. By default, it's always going to show you the top thing. So as I scroll, I can see the top. This I didn't find until recently. If I click on this layer, and you have to be careful here, just make sure you click on the layer, not here on the layer, because otherwise it'll think that you're moving things. Then I can now scrub, and I can see the actions not of the top layer, but of this third layer. So what I want to do here is I just want to grab a piece of what I was doing in that section. So I'm going to switch over to this range tool, and I'm just going to grab a little piece of video right there. And that's about how much I want to add. I don't want to add too much. And I'm going to copy this, right? And I'll say done. And then I'm going to come in here. I'll switch back to the arrow tool, which here's the toolbar, the other toolbar, I guess. And then I'm just going to paste up here. So here's where my scene began, and maybe I want to put it right there. And I'm going to paste. It puts that piece of video in a separate layer on top of my face. Now, I still have my face, and I even still have the other version of this video. But I know that I need to move this. Like this is actually not synced to what was showing when I recorded. This is a little bit later on in the video, so I want to bring that forward. So in here, I have this piece of timeline, and now I can edit this with just like regular timeline tools, bring the beginning in a little bit quicker. The other thing that I could do is I can actually hit this, the blade, and take a piece of it and cut out a piece of it. And then I can retime these pieces individually. So if I want to say this beginning part has either me type in a bunch of code or, me just, I don't know, I don't really need the stop part, then what I can do is I could just grab that piece, and I'm going to hit delete, and it will, I'm sorry. So actually, let me grab the middle piece. So here's a piece in the middle that I used the blade twice with. if I delete this, it's actually going to take the piece that's happening later and bring it in and automatically merge kind of the edits. The other thing that I can do is I can come in here, select this middle piece, and say that this is me typing in a prompt and I don't want it to take that long. I can come in here and adjust the timing, make it last longer, make it last a little bit of a shorter amount of time, just to match like maybe how I'm talking. And so, you know, that's how you bring in edits from later on in time from your recording, right? From your multi-layer view. You can grab a piece from your multi-layer view and drop it in here. Am I like not showing you my editor? That's ridiculous. Let me switch back over to DeScript. So I just showed a bunch of stuff that I didn't actually show, so forgive me. So let me do that again. Okay, so basically what happens is that sometimes I want to bring in a clip because I don't always sort of talk. I wonder how much we lost here, but I don't always do the action as I'm saying something, and I wanted to kind of have a piece of the action as I'm talking. So the way that you do this is you create a scene when you want that to start happening, and you can just double click anywhere in the timeline. It'll take you to this timeline view, and I can come in here and scroll to a piece, and I have to first click on this section over here, this layer, right? And then find the place where I'm performing the action. So here is some actions, right, that I want to grab. Then I can use this range tool to select a piece, and I use a tiny one, and I'm just going to copy that, just Command C, and then I can insert that in my regular timeline, right? Right, and now I can use just the tools to edit this. So I can use the blaze. So it looks like I didn't do anything here at the beginning, right, until this section. And here's where I'm moving the mouse over, right? And here's where I'm going. So here's where I actually did something meaningful, right? I clicked on this little icon right here and it expanded. So I need to edit this a little bit tighter. And so I'm going to bring this over and have that action begin earlier. So I don't want to do a whole entire demo, and it is really slow because I think I'm running so many things. So I'm just going to show you that. Oh, it is really running slow. So let's try that again. Ooh, it's really crawling. All right, so now what I can do is expand this timeline. I can also use this blade tool to cut pieces of this edit and take a piece and retime it. So if this is like me typing in a prompt, then I can just make that take longer or shorter. Notice that the other piece is moving along with this one. If I delete this middle piece, the timeline will sort of collapse. So if I hit delete here, it'll just take this one and scoot it over. So again, that's what I mean about it's really cognizant of your workflow and it's really cognizant of your workflow, and it has a lot of these like workflow features. So my second step is to find the screen cap, copy a range, paste it as a new layer, and then cut, delete, and retime that piece of video. Right, but sometimes I need either some B-roll, and I think there's actually a question. So good question here. So David says, are both videos screen and live action and both HD? So by default, DeScript will let you record either in 4K or HD. So that will control the resolution that your recording is in. And when you record, you also have some settings for each of the different sequences. You could choose which camera you're using. You can see all of my cameras here. And I think there's some controls here as to the default recording resolution. So you can control some of that. You can record at 4K, whatever you have the default for the entire, project, that will apply to everything. But then you can also ask it to record at 1080, which I do everything in 1080. I don't use 4K. although my camera is capable of doing that. And it just all comes in directly into DeScript. So yeah, excellent. Yeah, definitely give it a go. Okay, so that's one sort of way that I use this is by finding sequences, copying a range, paste it as a new layer, and then cut, delete, and retime all the content. The next pass that I would do is, you can also add a freeze frame. So sometimes like you just want to freeze the frame. And to do that, you just right click anywhere in the timeline and there's a little pop-up that lets you add a freeze frame, and then you can control the freeze frame. So basically I take a clip and I just do all my editing really quick right there. And then I continue with what I'm doing. All right, so then I do a Snagit pass. So this is if I need to bring in, say, a website, or I want to record a new piece of, I did something wrong, so I want to re-record something. I can also just bring that in as another layer. And as I mentioned, by using Snagit, where is Snagit in here? Okay, Snagit. Yes, that's in the front, so it's probably behind this full screen window. Let's try that out. Snagit. Okay, also I need to switch over. I know that I need to switch over to my camera. Here's my demo. All right, so Snagit looks like this. So the other thing that I do is, just as I showed you, I'll use Snagit to record a website or a demo of me doing something on a website. Usually just me scrolling through a website. So this is just a simple recorder. You just hit record. It records the screen, but I do like that it has this way of just clipping out little pieces. I'll clip out the little piece and then I'll end up with a finished video. As I mentioned, if I want to drag this into the timeline, all I have to do is literally drag it and put it over here somewhere, and it will just add the file, put it in the media center, upload it to the cloud, and then just add it to the timeline. And now you can do the same edits if you want to. I prefer to do my quick edits in Snagit and have it 90% of the way that I want it. I'll do the retiming in DeScript because it's so good at doing retiming it's a better tool for that kind of thing. So that's sort of the next process that I use. I record my screen in Snagit. I do a quick edit to make it 90% of the way there, and then I drag it onto the timeline, and then I repeat all the stuff that I showed you for the edits. So retiming, you can add a freeze frame. So freeze frames, you just go anywhere on the timeline, you right click, and then you say add a freeze frame right here, and it will just give you a clip of video that's inserted inside the timeline. So I finish up my edits, and again, I do need to remember to switch this. Yeah, so right click anywhere in the timeline, and you can see the freeze frame is right here. So I go through the same sort of edits, and that is basically what I call the Snagit pass. I end up with, all of the edits from my original recording, additional layers for additional edits. I might drop in some video that I have. Another nice thing is I don't have to worry about organizing my folders so much because everything is going to the cloud anyways. So if I find a video that I want to include, I'll just drag it from whatever folder it's in. I put it in the timeline, and DeScript's going to take care of automatically uploading it to the cloud and backing it up. So I never, I don't have to worry about folder structures or anything like that. Another benefit. Okay, next would be my animation / overlay pass. This is where I want to add either, say, some text, or I want to do like a little rectangle that highlights something. It does have some animations. I would say this is probably the weakest part of DeScript. The animations are not good, but you can do some simple animations, and you can add text or shapes with the top toolbar. And what you can also do though is make those into templates. So let me show you some of that. What time is it? What am I doing here? Did we already do an hour? Wow. Okay. So, well, I don't think I have that much more to go. So we'll just keep it going. All right. So next up, I'm going to go over to my DeScript, and let's put this on its own window. So now what I want to do is add, say that I want to highlight something on this page. I have the ability to add text, or I can add a shape, draw a rectangle, and I don't like that it just kind of puts a white rectangle. I wish it kind of remembered things a little bit better. But I'm going to delete the fill. I'm going to add a border, color it, whatever color I want. And then say this is like, I'm asking people to maybe look at this button. And that's just another element in the timeline. So notice that it does, again, this is where you want to have scenes because it put that in the entire video. If you don't create scenes, it'll just assume that you want to start at the current scene and end at the end of the video. And that's why you go through the process of creating the scenes, right? Now, the nice thing is that you can make anything into a template, right? So I mentioned that I don't like that it just gives you a random white square, but you can make, once you have it looking just the way you like, you can create a template out of it. And I showed you templates earlier, but I do have a template here for a red outline that I would use. And so I could just select that and it adds a red outline that looks just like all the others. And then I can just go through and make it, fit the button that I want to do right there. But the templates can actually do a lot more. So let me go ahead and I'll just add another scene at the end of this sentence here so that it doesn't do the entire timeline. So let's say that I want to add some text as I'm talking to reinforce some of the things that I'm saying on this next section right here. So I have a template for that as well. So I have a bunch of templates for things like overlays. It's like a file overlay. This is my name at the top of the video, and I have this like template for a 3-word headline, so you could see that it added 3 words. Again, I didn't create an indent scene for this, and I can just go in there and edit those words. So anything that you can create a template out of, it's going to help you do the same thing again. And creating templates is super easy. So basically, if I had designed those 3 words like that, and I wanted to make a template for future use. So I showed you how to make a composition. You basically take the text and you copy and paste it. So to create a template, you just do the same thing. So you just grab something that has the stuff that you want. It doesn't matter how much it is. You just copy this. So I'll copy and then I'll make you don't make a new composition. Templates all go in the main level. So let's see, we'll go back to projects and there's actually a templates folder. And you just create a composition and hit paste. And then you hit like save. And that's how you create templates. And templates can include all kinds of things. So they can be like quick zooms, like I have done right here, animations, although the animations don't work well. It can have, all kinds of stuff. So you could see in my finished version of this that, let's go back into the workspace playtime and don't train the models. This is the last one. And this is, I think, the finished version of this. So this is great. So you can see that I have templates for whenever I do web overlays. So the text kind of with the link. Show that. So you can see that this is a template and I can just add that, and I have templates for everything. So consider creating templates that'll help you in the future. That's pretty cool. I think I have only a couple of more things to talk about. So if you want to create a template, just basically copy and paste it into a new template, and then you can use them anywhere and share them with other people. And after you insert a template, then you can make whatever adjustments, change the text, resize the box, that kind of stuff. Other useful AI stuff that is unbelievable. You can go in here, as I mentioned. Whenever I say ChatGPT, it does either Chad GPT, or whatever the heck Changi BT is. So because it can use your transcript to put those automatic text overlays that people like to use in social media today. But if you want to correct this ChanGPT, we can hit this correct button and just say ChatGPT. This isn't really like an AI feature. It's just a way of correcting your transcript. Hot dang it. I keep on not switching over. So let me switch over to the script. And so what I'm showing you is that this used to say ChatGPT. So you want to go in here and hit the correct button and say ChatGPT. So this is important just because it uses that for your automatic transcripts. So then I hit correct, and now my transcript will be fine. Now that's okay. But you can, there's also a couple of really cool features. There's one called regenerate. So that is basically, especially if you're re-recording something, or if you make an edit and you delete some words at the end of a sentence, but your intonation doesn't sound like the end of the sentence, DeScript can actually correct that for you and make the audio sound like the end of a sentence, or say audio that you paste on top, it'll make it sound like the rest of the audio. So if you record some new audio, that's a problem because you don't remember how you said something. It can go ahead and correct those kind of inconsistencies, and that's pretty awesome. And there's also overdub. Overdub will literally let you type in a different word than what you said, and it will use AI, analyze your voice, and it'll replicate it so that it can correct a word. So a good example would be a couple of days ago, we noticed that ChatGPT reduced the context size of all of its, of all of its products. So if you have a piece of audio where it says, and the context size is eight, it's like it used to be 32K, but now it's 8K. So you can literally just retype those words in, and it will create a piece of audio for you that sounds exactly like you. It is really good. It sounds exactly like me. So that's overdub, and I think that's all the AI features. Now let me show you that pretty quickly. So back into the DeScript demo, right? And so here I was talking about regurgitation, right? And let's say that, let's see, I don't know, say that, I don't know, for whatever reason, I want to say Claude instead of ChatGPT. Not a good example, but I'm going with it. Then what you could do is you can grab a word and you can say, I want to create an overdub of this, and I want to change those words to Claude. Now, you won't be able to hear it here, but I'm going to hit overdub, and it will actually, again, I have stored the AI generation of my voice, and it's going to go through and generate. The only problem with this tool, so it should appear, see the timeline, here is where it's going to generate that word. The only problem that I have with this is that if you recorded this in video, then it doesn't yet fix your video. I think in the future it probably will, and you do have to tell it. So I forgot to tell it that I want to use the voice that I stored earlier. So I want to use this Ray voice, and now it should go through and generate that new piece of audio. So see, it's blinking. Once it finishes it, it's going to incorporate it into my audio here. So there. Could be that I maybe said Claude and I meant ChatGPT when I was recording. And I'm telling you, I know that I can't play the audio here. It sounds exactly like me. You can actually create a whole script with your AI voice. It's not great, but for fixing audio, it's unbelievably great. You can't tell it's not me. If you can put some B-roll on top, or it's especially good if you have, say, if it's like a fix for some content that has a screen cap section in it, it's really good. Otherwise you can also re-record a piece of audio on top and do that edit pretty simply. So let's see. I don't know that there are any questions. Hopefully people can also come back and check out some of this later on. Let me switch over to this slide here. So yeah, that is DeScript, and you can see that it is really focused on workflows, and it's the reason why I love it and use it for all of my editing today. And I do want to say that, of course, make sure you follow me and everything else. But next time, I want to go ahead and show you that I think that although some of the generative AI, some of the generative video tools aren't there yet, I've been using. I did a post yesterday on LinkedIn where I showed that I had generated an image for one of my posts, and it was really good. And I made a video version of the image. So let me show you that really quick, because this is going to be hopefully the next session of playtime, where I want to go through and show you how to put these together. Because I think video generation is there, but only for things like B-roll. So demo desktop. So basically, I did this post where I had done this image using Midjourney, and then I used Runway ML to do this animation. And there's a lot of controls that you can have over how it creates the animated video. You can actually ask it to rotate the face, or you can ask it to zoom and pan. And I think that this could be a really good tool for, a production where you want to just say, you can ask it to generate an image of an AI computer with, I don't know, a car driving through it, whatever. You can see that the image tools for generative AI are already there. The tools for video, they leave something to be desired for the most part, but I think that it could be really useful for animating things like B-roll. In this case, I actually gave it an image and then asked it to, generate the animation for that image. I could have just asked it to do the whole thing itself, but I do like the way that Midjourney does the art a little bit better. But hopefully, this will be the next episode. So unless I see any questions, so yeah, so thank you, Mata, Risa, Valar. So this is, yeah, cool way to edit videos. Yeah, I do have Camtasia. I just never really used it. So I use ScreenFlow for a lot of things. So if you saw the intro animation for this playtime show, that was actually done in ScreenFlow, because it's a simpler editor for me. I think Premiere just takes too long, and I'm not used to it. So it's not very Mac-like, I think. So it's not my favorite. But yeah, hopefully you found this useful, and I will see you again in a future episode. And maybe next time we'll get into how I did this video animation using different tools. So talk to you soon.